The Rose Petal Murder. Gregory de Villers, 26 years old, was a biology graduate from UC San Diego, working as a business development manager at biotech company Orbigen. Born in Illinois to French parents, de Villers was described as fiercely opposed to substance use. He met Kristen Rossum near the Tijuana border in late 1994 and helped her overcome a methamphetamine dependency she had battled since her teenage years. They married on June 5, 1999. Rossum, born October 25, 1976, in Memphis, Tennessee, was the daughter of a Claremont McKenna College professor and graduated summa cum laude from San Diego State University in chemistry. She worked as a toxicologist at the San Diego County Medical Examiner's Office. In June 2000, she began an affair with her direct supervisor, Dr. Michael Robertson, an Australian forensic toxicologist. By late 2000, de Villers had discovered both the affair and Rossum's relapse into methamphetamine use. She was stealing substances from the lab. He threatened to expose everything to her superiors unless she quit immediately. On November 6, 2000, Rossum called her husband's employer to say he was ill, then went to work. During the day, she purchased a single red rose at a Vons supermarket, timestamped 12:42 p.m. on her loyalty card. That evening, she called 911 claiming de Villers had taken his own life. Paramedics found him with 7 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system, along with clonazepam and oxycodone. Red rose petals were scattered over his body on the bed, and a wedding photo was propped beside his head, mimicking imagery from the 1999 film American Beauty, Rossum's favorite movie. An unexplained needle mark suggested injection. The staging was initially treated as genuine, but de Villers' brother Jerome insisted his brother would never use substances. 2 days later, medical examiner's office employee Russ Lowe called police to report Rossum and Robertson's affair. An audit revealed missing fentanyl linked to Rossum and Robertson. The Vons receipt discovered just before trial proved Rossum purchased the rose used in the staging. Prosecutor Dan Goldstein, a former paramedic, recognized the 911 call was staged. Rossum claimed to be performing CPR, but no marks consistent with chest compressions were found on the body. She knew he was already deceased when she made the call. At trial in San Diego Superior Court in October through November 2002, the defense argued de Villers took his own life. On November 12, 2002, what would have been de Villers' 29th birthday, the jury found Rossum guilty of first-degree ending with the special circumstance of ending by poison after 8 hours of deliberation. She was sentenced to life without parole. What makes this case so chilling is Rossum's expertise. She was a toxicologist who worked in the very office that would investigate the passing. She selected fentanyl, a substance she knew would be detected but could plausibly appear as intentional overdose. She staged the scene to mimic a film about suburban despair and midlife crisis. She scattered rose petals over his body like a memorial. She called 911 and performed fake CPR, knowing he was already gone. The Vons loyalty card receipt became the smoking gun. Rossum purchased a single red rose at 12:42 p.m. Hours later, petals from that rose were scattered over her deceased husband's body. That time-stamped purchase proved premeditation. She bought the rose knowing exactly how she would use it that evening. Rossum remains incarcerated at the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. Multiple appeals have failed, including a Ninth Circuit petition denied in 2011 and a U.S. Supreme Court certiorari denial in 2012. Dr. Robertson fled to Australia and was never charged with ending, though a sealed felony conspiracy complaint was filed against him in 2006. As of 2014, he was running a forensic consulting service in Brisbane. The de Villers family won a $100 million civil judgment, later reduced to $10 million. But no amount of money brings back the 26-year-old who helped his future wife overcome substance dependency, only to be ended by her using the very substances he opposed. Administered with expertise she gained in a career he supported. Gregory de Villers was fiercely opposed to substance use. His wife was a toxicologist who stole fentanyl from the medical examiner's office where she worked. She injected him with 7 times the lethal dose, scattered rose petals over his body to mimic her favorite film, and called 911 pretending to perform CPR on someone she knew was already deceased. And she did it on what she knew would be framed as his own choice rather than her calculated act. While Rossum used her scientific expertise to craft the perfect poison, the next perpetrator would use her skydiving knowledge to sabotage equipment at 13,000 feet. The murder of Els van Doren. Els van Doren, 37 years old, was a Belgian woman married to Antwerp jeweler John de Wilde, with 2 offspring. During weekdays, she worked at the family jewelry store. On weekends, she pursued her passion at the Zwartberg Paracentrum skydiving club near Genk, Belgium. She had completed 2,300 jumps. What her husband didn't know was that she had maintained a years-long affair with Marcel Mars Summers, a Dutch skydiver from Eindhoven. The individual who would end her life was Els Klottemans, 22 years old, nicknamed Babs, a name Van Doren herself suggested to avoid confusion, as both women shared the first name Els. Klottemans was also a skilled skydiver at the same club and was secretly involved with Summers. She acknowledged being number 2 in Summers' affections. The 2 women were close friends, speaking on the phone approximately 200 times in the 10 months before the incident, on the weekend of November 10th through 11th. 2006, all 3 stayed at Summers' apartment in Eindhoven. Van Doren shared his bed while Klottemans slept on the living room floor. Van Doren's parachute gear was stored in the apartment. Prosecutors argued Klottemans, able to hear the couple through thin walls, used scissors to cut the cords of Van Doren's main parachute, a process requiring no more than 30 seconds. On November 18, 2006, 12 club members jumped from a Cessna at approximately 13,000 feet over Flanders. Klottemans jumped a fraction too late and did not join the formation, instead watching from above. When Van Doren deployed her main chute at 4,500 feet, it failed. Her reserve became entangled and would not deploy properly. Her helmet-mounted camera recorded her desperate, screaming attempts to free the parachutes. She plummeted at roughly 120 miles per hour and crashed into a garden in Opgladbeek, passing away instantly. Klottemans initially escaped suspicion due to her close friendship with Van Doren. 1 month later, hours before a scheduled second police interview, she attempted to take her own life, leaving a note. "I want to be with my friend." This immediately made her the prime suspect. The case was entirely circumstantial. No DNA, fingerprints, or physical forensic evidence linked Klottemans to the sabotage. Conviction rested on motive, opportunity, expertise. Anonymous letters she had sent about Van Doren's personal life and her behavior during and after the jump. At trial in Tongeren in September through October 2010, the jury deliberated just 4 hours before finding Klottemans guilty of premeditated ending. She was sentenced to 30 years imprisonment. The judge cited her feeble psychological condition as a mitigating factor. This case is believed to be the world's first ending by parachute sabotage. What makes this case so haunting is the premeditation combined with the friendship. Van Doren and Klottemans spoke 200 times in 10 months. Van Doren suggested the nickname Babs to avoid confusion between the 2 Els names. They jumped together regularly at the same club. Van Doren trusted Klottemans completely. That weekend in Eindhoven, Cloteman slept on the living room floor while Van Doren shared Summer's bed. She could hear them through the walls. Van Doren's parachute equipment was right there in the apartment. Scissors. 30 seconds. That's all it took to cut the cords. The helmet camera footage was devastating. Van Doren screaming as she tried desperately to free her parachutes. The main chute failed. The reserve tangled, falling at 120 miles per hour toward the ground below. And somewhere above, Cloteman's was watching. Having jumped just a fraction too late to join the formation, positioning herself perfectly to witness the sabotage's result. The suicide attempt 1 month later, hours before her second police interview, essentially confirmed guilt. The note, "I want to be with my friend," was a confession wrapped in apparent remorse. But if she truly wanted to be with her friend, why sabotage her parachute in the first place? Cloteman's appeal was denied by the Belgian Court of Cassation in May 2011. She was released from Ghent prison in June 2022 with an electronic ankle bracelet after serving approximately 12 years, under conditions including a ban from entering Antwerp province. She maintains her innocence. John de Wilde lost his wife of many years. He learned after her passing that she'd been maintaining an affair with a skydiver. His wife's friend, someone they trusted, someone who jumped with her, regularly sabotaged her parachute and watched her fall to her passing. And the woman who did it served 12 years, was released with an ankle monitor, and continues to claim innocence despite the jury's 4-hour deliberation and guilty verdict. While Cloteman's sabotaged equipment to eliminate a rival, the next perpetrator would use her expertise in an entirely different field to craft an elaborate scheme. The murder of Annalisa Raimundo. Annalisa Raimundo, 32 years old, was a Filipino-American pharmaceutical executive, a Harvard undergraduate, and Columbia master's graduate living in the Shippen section of Stamford, Connecticut. She worked at Pharmacia and was engaged to Nelson Sessler, a research scientist at Purdue Pharma. Her life ended because someone else wanted him. Her perpetrator was Sheila Davalu, 33 years old, an Iranian-born biochemist also working at Purdue Pharma. Davalu was secretly married to Paul Christos while simultaneously conducting an affair with Sessler. She went to extraordinary lengths to hide her marriage, telling her husband that visits from Sessler were from her schizophrenic brother, and removing all evidence of Christos from their home before Sessler arrived. When Sessler ended their affair in summer 2002 to commit to Raimundo, Davalu's fixation intensified. She constructed an elaborate fictional narrative, she told Christos daily, involving characters Melissa, herself, Jack, Sessler, and Annalisa, seeking his advice on how Melissa could win Jack back. She manipulated Christos into lending her night vision binoculars, an eavesdropping device, and a lock-picking kit. On November 8, 2002, workplace security records showed Davalu absent from Purdue Pharma between 10:53 a.m. and 1:53 p.m. During that window, she traveled to Raimundo's condominium, where she bludgeoned her with a dumbbell and stabbed her approximately 20 times. She washed her hands in the bathroom sink, leaving a critical blood stain, then called 911 from a payphone pretending to be a neighbor. 5 months later, on March 23, 2003, Davalu attempted to end Christos in an equally bizarre attack, blindfolding and handcuffing him under the pretense of a guessing game, then stabbing him. When he begged for help, she called Sessler instead of 911. At the hospital parking lot, she stabbed Christos a third time, piercing his heart. He survived only because a passerby witnessed the attack. Davalu was convicted of attempted ending of Christos in 2004, receiving 25 years in New York. For Raimundo's case, she represented herself at trial in Connecticut, a decision that backfired when jurors could compare her voice to the anonymous 911 recording. She was convicted on February 10, 2012, and sentenced to 50 years consecutive to her New York sentence, creating an effective 75-year sentence. She won't be eligible for release until approximately 2079, when she would be 110 years old. What makes Davalou's case so disturbing is the elaborate deception she maintained across multiple relationships. She was secretly married to Christos while having an affair with Sessler. She told her husband that Sessler was her schizophrenic brother. She removed all evidence of Christos from their home before Sessler visited. She created an entire fictional narrative characters named Melissa, Jack, and Annalisa and told it to her husband daily, seeking his advice on how the fictional Melissa could win the fictional Jack back from the fictional Annalisa. Except Annalisa wasn't fictional. She was a real person, a Harvard and Columbia graduate, a pharmaceutical executive, engaged to the man Davalou wanted. And Davalou used the equipment her husband lent her: night vision binoculars, eavesdropping devices, lock-picking tools to stalk and ultimately end the real Annalisa Raimundo. The workplace security records provided the timeline. Davalou was absent from Purdue Pharma for exactly 3 hours. During those 3 hours, she traveled to Raimundo's condominium, bludgeoned her with a dumbbell, stabbed her approximately 20 times, washed her hands in the bathroom sink, and called 911 from a payphone pretending to be a concerned neighbor. The bloodstain in the bathroom sink became critical evidence. Davalou had tried to wash away the evidence, but forensic analysis recovered blood that matched Raimundo's DNA. Combined with the security records showing her absence during the crucial window, the 911 call in her voice, and her subsequent attempt to end her own husband, the evidence was overwhelming. The decision to represent herself at trial proved fatal to her defense. The Connecticut Supreme Court unanimously upheld her conviction in December 2015. She remains at Bedford Hills Correctional Facility in New York, serving a 75-year sentence that ensures she'll spend the rest of her life imprisoned. Annalisa Raimundo was 32 years old with degrees from Harvard and Columbia. She worked as a pharmaceutical executive. She was engaged to be married. And she was ended by someone who wanted her fiancé, someone who created fictional characters to discuss the situation with her own husband, someone who used equipment borrowed under false pretenses to stalk and ultimately end a complete stranger whose only crime was being engaged to the wrong man. While Davalou's scheme involved elaborate deception across multiple relationships, the next case would unfold among teenagers in a far more public and traceable way. The murder of Sarah Ludeman. Sarah Ludeman, 18 years old, was a straight-A student at Pinellas Park High School in Florida. Described as a miracle baby, the only offspring of parents told they could never have children. She planned to become a nurse. Her life ended over a boy named Joshua Camacho. Rachel Wade, 19 years old, was a high school dropout working as an Applebee's waitress who had been living on her own since 15. At the center of their feud was Camacho, approximately 20 years old, whom police characterized as part of a love hexagon due to his multiple simultaneous relationships. Ludeman began dating Camacho in November 2007. Wade had previously dated him. The rivalry escalated through MySpace posts, threatening voicemails, and public confrontations over months. In one voicemail, Wade told Ludeman, "I'm guaranteeing you that I'm going to murder you." Ludeman saved these recordings. They became the prosecution's most devastating evidence. On the night of April 14th through 15th, 2009, Wade took a steak knife from her kitchen drawer before leaving her apartment. After a series of phone calls and text exchanges, Ludeman drove to the house where Wade was visiting. What happened next is disputed. prosecutors said Wade attacked Ludeman at her car door before she could fully exit. Wade claimed self-defense, saying Ludeman struck her 3 times first. Wade stabbed Ludeman twice, once in the shoulder and once in the chest, puncturing her heart. The knife blade bent from the force. Ludeman passed away at 2:20 a.m. After the stabbing, Wade reportedly threw the knife over a neighbor's house and said, "I'm done." Police recovered the bent blade. The voicemail recordings Wade had left on Ludeman's phone over the preceding months, explicit threats to end her life, proved premeditation beyond reasonable doubt. At trial in July 2010, the voicemail recordings proved devastating. A 6-person jury deliberated fewer than 2.5 hours before convicting Wade of second-degree ending. She was sentenced to 27 years in prison. What makes this case particularly tragic is how preventable it was. Wade left explicit voicemail threats. "I'm guaranteeing you that I'm going to f***ing murder you." Ludeman saved those recordings. She knew Wade had threatened her life. Yet on the night of April 14th, she drove to the house where Wade was visiting anyway. The MySpace feuding, the threatening voicemails, the public confrontations, everything was documented, traceable, public. This wasn't a secret affair or hidden scheme. This was a very public rivalry over a young man who was simultaneously involved with multiple people, described by police as part of a love hexagon. Wade took a steak knife from her kitchen before leaving her apartment that night. She knew what she was planning. The dispute over self-defense, whether Ludeman struck Wade first before being stabbed, doesn't change the fundamental fact that Wade armed herself with a kitchen knife before going to that location. The jury deliberated fewer than 2.5 hours. The voicemail recordings, Wade's own voice explicitly threatening to end Ludeman's life, made the verdict almost inevitable. The bent knife blade, recovered after Wade threw it over a neighbor's house, matched the wounds. The timeline fit. The motive was clear, and Wade's own recorded threats eliminated any reasonable doubt. Wade remains at Lowell Correctional Institution in Florida with a projected release date of approximately 2032, when she will be 42 years old. Florida does not offer parole for her offense category, meaning she'll serve the full 27 years. Sarah Ludeman was 18 years old, a straight-A student planning to become a nurse, the only offspring of parents told they could never conceive. Rachel Wade was 19, a high school dropout, who'd been on her own since 15. And Joshua Camacho, the young man at the center of their feud, continued his life while 2 families were destroyed over his involvement in what police called a love hexagon. While that case involved teenagers and social media feuding, the next would involve a husband's 18-year disappearance and a mother's relentless pursuit of truth. The murder of Mike Williams. Mike Williams, 31 years old, was a successful Tallahassee real estate appraiser earning $200,000 per year. He disappeared on December 16, 2000, his 6th wedding anniversary, while supposedly duck hunting at Lake Seminole. What his family didn't know was that his wife, Denise, and his lifelong best friend, Brian Winchester, had been conducting an affair since 1997. All 4 principals, Mike, Denise, Brian, and Brian's first wife, Kathy Thomas, had attended North Florida Christian High School together. The affair between Denise and Winchester had been ongoing for 3 years before Mike's disappearance. Winchester testified that Denise compared their situation to the biblical story of David and Bathsheba, telling him, "It won't be a murder, it'll be an accident." Denise reportedly preferred widowhood to divorce, saying it was better to be known as a widow than a divorcee. According to Winchester, confession, he lured Mike to the lake, pushed him overboard to simulate a drowning. But when Mike swam to a stump and held on, Winchester shot him in the face with a 12-gauge shotgun. He buried the body near Carr Lake, an hour away. then joined the search party looking for his best friend. Denise had Mike declared legally deceased within 6 months and collected $1.75 million from 3 life insurance policies. One, written by Winchester himself. She married Winchester in 2005. Mike's mother, Cheryl Williams, never accepted the drowning theory. She wrote letters to Florida's governor daily for 9 years, ran newspaper ads, put up billboards, and discovered that alligators don't feed in cold winter water, destroying the official theory that he'd been consumed by wildlife. The case was reopened in 2004, but hit a wall until 2016, when Winchester took Denise at gunpoint during their divorce. Arrested and facing those charges, Winchester struck an immunity deal. Full confession, the body's location, and testimony against Denise, in exchange for no charges for ending Mike. Mike's remains were recovered on October 18, 2017, with bird-shot pellets in the skull. Denise was convicted in December 2018 of first-degree ending, conspiracy, and accessory after the fact. Her conviction was overturned on appeal. In 2020, insufficient evidence she was a principal, but the conspiracy conviction stood. She was resentenced to 30 years in September 2021 and remains imprisoned. Winchester is serving 20 years for the taking at gunpoint, projected release around 2036, and was never charged with ending Mike. Remarkably, no one has been convicted of Mike Williams ending. Winchester has immunity, and Denise's conviction was overturned. What makes this case so frustrating is the complete failure of justice regarding the actual act. Winchester confessed to shooting Mike in the face with a shotgun. He led investigators to the remains. Bird-shot pellets in the skull confirmed the shooting. But Winchester has full immunity. He'll never be convicted of ending Mike Williams. Denise was convicted of first-degree ending in 2018. That conviction was overturned in 2020 because prosecutors couldn't prove she was a principal, meaning directly involved in the shooting. The conspiracy conviction stood, resulting in 30 years. But the ending conviction itself was overturned. So Mike Williams was shot in the face with a shotgun by his best friend, who then buried his body and joined the search party. His wife collected nearly $2 million in life insurance and married the best friend who ended him. The best friend confessed, received immunity, and will walk free around 2036. The wife was convicted of conspiracy, but not of the ending itself. Cheryl Williams, Mike's mother, fought for 18 years, daily letters to the governor for 9 years, newspaper ads, billboards, proving that alligators don't feed in winter, destroying the official drowning theory. Her relentless pursuit finally forced authorities to reopen the case. And when Winchester took Denise at gunpoint during their divorce, it finally broke the case open. But justice remains incomplete. The man who pulled the trigger has immunity. The woman who collected the insurance and married him afterward is serving 30 years for conspiracy, but was acquitted of the actual ending. And Mike Williams' remains recovered 17 years after his disappearance showed exactly what Winchester confessed. Bird-shot pellets in the skull from a 12-gauge shotgun fired at point-blank range by someone he trusted completely. While that case involved a husband, a wife, and a best friend in a years-long conspiracy, the next would involve a wife, a young firefighter, and a relationship built on shared faith that turned deadly. The murder of Robert Lyman. Robert Lyman, 38 years old, was a BNSF railway mechanic living in Silver Lakes, Hellendale, California. His wife, Sabrina Lyman, and young firefighter/paramedic Jonathan Hearn, 24 years old, began an affair after meeting at the Costco where Sabrina worked part-time. They bonded over shared Christian faith. The Lymans had opened their marriage in 2008, But Sabrina grew tired of that lifestyle and wanted monogamy, leading her to the devoutly religious Hearn, who was roughly 14 years her junior. Robert discovered the affair via text messages and demanded it end. Sabrina outwardly agreed, but continued seeing Hearn secretly. According to Hearn's testimony, Sabrina told him Robert would honestly rather be deceased than divorced, and that they could raise the offspring as godly parents. Their first attempt involved arsenic-laced banana pudding packed in Robert's lunch in April 2014. Sabrina allegedly got cold feet and called Robert to warn him the pudding had gone bad. On August 17, 2014, 2 days before the couple's 14th wedding anniversary, Sabrina informed Hearn that Robert would be working alone at an SF rail yard in Tehachapi. Hearn rode 85 miles on a motorcycle, disguised with a helmet and red bandana, and shot Robert, staging the scene to look like a robbery. Phone records showed Sabrina and Hearn spoke for 3 hours and 43 minutes on the day of the incident. The case broke when friend Jason Bernatine received a suspiciously apologetic voicemail from Hearn, someone who barely knew Robert. Investigators wiretapped the couple and used a disinformation tactic, feeding Sabrina false case developments and watching her immediately relay them to Hearn via burner phone. Hearn pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter in exchange for testifying against Sabrina, sentenced to 25 years and 4 months. Sabrina was convicted of first-degree ending, conspiracy, and solicitation in October 2017 and sentenced to 25 years to life. Her conviction was upheld on appeal in October 2022. What makes this case particularly disturbing is the religious framing. Sabrina and Hearn bonded over shared Christian faith. Hearn was a devout firefighter and paramedic, someone dedicated to saving lives. Yet Sabrina convinced him that ending her husband was somehow compatible with raising offspring as godly parents. The banana pudding attempt in April 2014 shows premeditation months before the actual shooting. Sabrina packed arsenic-laced pudding in Robert's lunch. At the last minute, she called to warn him it had gone bad, whether from genuine second thoughts or fear of being caught. The attempt demonstrated her willingness to poison her husband. 4 months later, she told Hearn that Robert would be working alone at the Tehachapi rail yard. Hearn rode 85 miles on a motorcycle, disguised himself with a helmet and red bandana, and shot Robert. He staged the scene to look like a robbery, a random act, rather than a targeted hit. The 3 hours and 43 minutes of phone calls on the day of the shooting proved coordination. That's not a brief check-in. That's sustained communication throughout the planning and execution of the act. The wiretaps captured Sabrina receiving false information from investigators and immediately relaying it to Hearn on a burner phone, proving they were actively coordinating their stories. Jason Bernatine's suspicion about the apologetic voicemail broke the case. Why would Hearn, who barely knew Robert, leave such an emotional, apologetic message? That anomaly triggered the investigation that eventually unraveled their scheme. Sabrina remains at the California Institution for Women. Hearn is at Ironwood State Prison with parole eligibility in November 2028. Robert Lyman was 2 days away from his 14th wedding anniversary when he was shot at his workplace by a young firefighter his wife had convinced to end him in the name of raising their offspring as godly parents. The shared Christian faith that brought Sabrina and Hearn together became the justification for ending Robert. The banana pudding laced with arsenic, the 3 hours and 43 minutes of phone calls on the day of the shooting, the motorcycle ride of 85 miles to stage a robbery, and the appeals court upholding Sabrina's conviction, ensuring she'll spend 25 years to life imprisoned for convincing a firefighter to take a life rather than save one. If you've made it this far and enjoy deep dives into the most shocking criminal cases, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to press the bell icon. while Sabrina convinced a firefighter to betray his oath to save lives. The next perpetrator would betray a friendship that stretched back to middle school. The murder of Christian Aguilar. Christian Aguilar, 18 years old, was a University of Florida freshman from Doral, Florida, studying biomedical engineering. His life would be taken by someone he'd known since 8th grade, Pedro Bravo, also 18, who had been his friend at Doral Academy Preparatory School. Both were connected to Erica Freeman, who dated Bravo for 3 years in high school before breaking up and beginning a relationship with Aguilar. Devastated, Bravo abandoned his plans to attend Florida International University and enrolled at Santa Fe Community College in Gainesville to be near Freeman. Before September 20th, 2012, Bravo purchased what prosecutors called a murderer's starter pack: a shovel, sleeping pills, duct tape, bandages, and a hunting knife. His computer revealed searches for "Where can I bury a body?" and "How many sleeping pills will it take to end someone?" His journal contained step-by-step plans to make Christian disappear. On September 20th, 2012, Bravo lured Aguilar out under the pretense of discussing his depression. Surveillance showed them visiting Best Buy, where they bought a Kanye West CD. According to cellmate testimony, Bravo then poisoned a Gatorade with sleeping pills, slipped into the back seat, and strangled Aguilar with a moving strap for 13 minutes while watching the clock. He buried the body in a shallow grave 60 miles away in Levy County. When Freeman grew worried, Bravo accompanied her to the police station to file a missing persons report, inserting himself into the investigation, just as other perpetrators had done. Key evidence included blood in Bravo's SUV, matching Aguilar's DNA, Aguilar's backpack hidden in Bravo's closet, matching duct tape, and surveillance of Bravo washing his car at 1 a.m. At trial in August 2014, the jury deliberated approximately 3 hours before convicting Bravo on all 7 counts. He was sentenced to life without parole plus consecutive terms. Years later, Bravo orchestrated an elaborate fraud from prison, recruiting a fellow inmate's girlfriend as a fake witness and convincing his former cellmate to recant. During the scheme, he effectively admitted to ending Aguilar for the first time. On March 12, 2025, days before facing new racketeering and perjury charges, Pedro Bravo took his own life at Okeechobee Correctional Institution at 31 years old. What makes this case so premeditated is the shopping list: shovel, sleeping pills, duct tape, bandages, hunting knife. Prosecutors literally called it a murderer's starter pack. The computer searches: where can I bury a body? How many sleeping pills will it take to end someone? The journal with step-by-step plans to make Christian disappear. The cellmate testimony about the 13 minutes of strangulation while watching the clock is particularly chilling. Bravo allegedly slipped into the back seat after poisoning Aguilar's Gatorade, wrapped a moving strap around his neck, and watched the time to ensure he strangled him for a full 13 minutes. That's not a moment of rage, that's calculated, timed execution. The Best Buy surveillance showing them purchasing a Kanye West CD together just hours before the act demonstrates how completely Aguilar trusted Bravo. They were shopping for music together. Aguilar had no idea his friend of 6 years had a shovel, sleeping pills, duct tape, and a hunting knife waiting in the vehicle. Bravo's decision to accompany Freeman to file the missing persons report shows the same pattern seen in other cases: the perpetrator inserting themselves into the investigation, playing the concerned friend while knowing exactly where the body was buried. The conviction seemed solid: 7 counts, life without parole. But Bravo spent years in prison orchestrating an elaborate scheme to overturn it, recruiting an inmate's girlfriend as a fake witness, convincing his cellmate to recant testimony. The scheme backfired when he effectively admitted to the act during the fraud, giving prosecutors even more evidence of guilt. Facing new racketeering and perjury charges for the scheme, Bravo chose to end his own life rather than face additional decades in prison. He was 31 years old, roughly the same number of years he would have lived if he'd never ended Christian Aguilar, and instead allowed both of them to live out their natural lives. Christian Aguilar was 18, studying biomedical engineering with his entire future ahead of him. Pedro Bravo couldn't accept that Erica Freeman had moved on from their high school relationship. So he bought a murderer's starter pack, searched the internet for burial locations, wrote detailed plans in his journal, poisoned his friend's Gatorade, strangled him for 13 minutes while timing it, buried him 60 miles away, and then accompanied the girlfriend to report him missing. While Bravo's premeditation was documented through purchases and internet searches, the next case would be coordinated in real time through text messages. The murder of Kevin Mengel. Kevin Mengel Jr., 33 years old, co-owned MKB Landscaping in West Goshen Township, Pennsylvania, with his wife Morgan Mengel, 37 years old. He was a devoted father of 3 offspring. Morgan began an affair with Stephen Chappell, 21 years old, a landscaping employee 15 years her junior, around Memorial Day, 2010. Morgan didn't want a divorce, fearing she'd lose custody and money. Prosecutors strongly disputed the love triangle framing. Chief Deputy DA Patrick Carmody stated, "You can't have a love triangle if the woman only loves herself." On June 17, 2010, Chappell first attempted to poison Kevin with liquid nicotine in a Snapple lemonade. When that failed to end him quickly enough, Chappell bludgeoned Kevin over the head with a shovel, then a second shovel when the first broke, then a third. Morgan was not at the scene but was texting Chappell in real time throughout. The body was buried behind Chappell's former high school. Morgan used Kevin's phone to text his family claiming he had left and needed to clear his head. She also had the couple's offspring send Father's Day messages to their deceased father. Kevin's family grew suspicious when texts from his phone didn't sound like him. Police recovered the incriminating text messages Morgan believed she had deleted. While awaiting trial, Morgan sent Chappell jailhouse letters claiming she was pregnant with his twins, fabricating a birth announcement to convince him to take full blame. When prosecutors revealed the pregnancy was fake, Chappell agreed to cooperate. Chappell pleaded guilty to third-degree ending and received 40 to 80 years. Morgan pleaded guilty to first-degree ending on the opening day of her retrial in February 2013 and received life without parole. She remains at ATSCY Muncie in Pennsylvania. Prosecutor Carmody called her Lady Macbeth without the guilt. What makes Morgan's case so chilling is the real-time text coordination. She wasn't present during the act, but she was directing it via text message. "You better not chicken out." When Chappell texted that he was waiting with a shovel in his hand and added, "Ha-ha," Morgan responded, "Nice babe." When he texted, "It's done, get up here now," Morgan's response was, "Pulse?" That single word, pulse, reveals everything about Morgan's mindset. Not, "Oh my God, what happened?" Not, "Is he okay?" Not horror or remorse. Just the cold, clinical question. Pulse? Checking if the job was complete. The liquid nicotine in Snapple attempt shows premeditation. When poisoning didn't work fast enough, they moved to blunt force 3 shovels, 2 breaking from the force of the blows. The body buried behind Chappell's former high school. Morgan using Kevin's phone to send fake texts to his family. Having the couple's offspring send Father's Day messages to their deceased father. The jailhouse letters about being pregnant with twins complete with fabricated birth announcements demonstrate Morgan's continued manipulation even while awaiting trial. She created an entirely fictional pregnancy to convince Chappell to take full blame. When prosecutors exposed the lie, Chappell realized he'd been manipulated and agreed to testify against her. The text messages Morgan believed she'd deleted were recovered by police. Those messages, the real-time coordination, the nice babe response to someone holding a shovel preparing to attack her husband. The pulse check afterward became the most damning evidence against her. Chief Deputy D. A Patrick Carmody's statement cuts to the heart of the case. You can't have a love triangle if the woman only loves herself. This wasn't about love or passion. Morgan didn't want a divorce because she'd lose custody and money. So she convinced a 21-year-old employee to poison and then bludgeon her husband while she coordinated via text from a distance. Chappell is serving 40 to 80 years. Morgan received life without parole. And Kevin Mengel's offspring, who were manipulated into sending Father's Day messages to their deceased father, lost both parents. One to the act itself, one to life imprisonment for orchestrating it. While Morgan coordinated her husband's demise through text messages, the next perpetrator would use ancient knowledge and modern travel to obtain the perfect poison. The murder of Lakvinder Cheema. Lakvinder Lucky Cheema, 39 years old, was a cleaner of Indian Sikh origin living in Feltham, West London. He had conducted a secret extramarital affair with Lakvir Kaur Singh for approximately 16 years. Singh, a married mother of 3 from Southall, visited Cheema's home daily to cook, clean, and do laundry. She became pregnant twice during the affair. Both times Cheema insisted on terminations to avoid shame. In late 2008, Cheema ended the affair and announced his engagement to Gurjeet Chung, 21 years old, with a wedding planned for Valentine's Day 2009. Singh traveled to India and procured Indian aconite known as the Queen of Poisons, containing the deadly alkaloid pseudaconazine. On January 27, 2009, while Cheema and Chung were out, Singh entered their kitchen, retrieved a Tupperware container of leftover chicken curry from the refrigerator, laced it with the yuan, aconite poison, and replaced it. A lodger witnessed her accessing the fridge. That evening, the couple ate the curry while discussing wedding plans. Within minutes, both experienced pins and needles, severe vomiting, numbness, loss of vision, and paralysis. Cheema called 999 and told the operator, "Someone put poison in our food. She is my ex-girlfriend." He passed away at approximately 2:36 a.m. on January 28th, roughly 2 hours after hospital admission. Aconite victims remain conscious throughout as their organs fail. Chung survived after being placed in a medically induced coma. Identifying the poison proved extraordinarily difficult. Standard toxicology screens failed. Only liquid chromatography mass spectrometry revealed unusual plant alkaloids, which scientists at the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew ultimately identified as pseudaconazine from Himalayan aconite. Packets of the poison were found in Singh's coat pocket when she was arrested. At the Old Bailey in February 2010, Singh was found guilty of ending and causing grievous bodily harm with intent. She was sentenced to life with a minimum of 23 years, making her eligible for parole around 2033. The judge called it cold and calculating revenge. This was the first aconite conviction in England since 1882. The forensic findings were published in The Lancet. What makes Singh's case so calculating is the choice of poison. Indian aconite, the queen of poisons, is not something you accidentally encounter. She traveled to India specifically to obtain it. She knew its properties: fast-acting, extremely lethal, difficult to detect in standard toxicology screens. The timing was deliberate. Cheema had ended their 16-year affair and was engaged to a woman 18 years younger than Singh. The wedding was planned for Valentine's Day, just over 2 weeks away. Singh poisoned the curry on January 27th, ensuring Chima would never make it to that Valentine's Day wedding. The lodger witnessing Singh accessing the refrigerator became critical evidence. She was seen retrieving the Tupperware container of leftover curry, then replacing it. That witness testimony, combined with the packets of aconite found in her coat pocket, proved both opportunity and possession of the poison. Chima's final 999 call: "Someone put poison in our food. She is my ex-girlfriend," identified Singh even as he was dying. He knew immediately what had happened and who was responsible. But that knowledge couldn't save him. Aconite victims remain conscious as their organs fail, meaning Chima was aware throughout the approximately 2 hours between eating the poisoned curry and his passing at the hospital. Chung survived, but only after being placed in a medically induced coma. She was 21 years old, planning her Valentine's Day wedding, eating leftover curry while discussing those plans with her fiancé. Within minutes, both were experiencing paralysis and organ failure. She woke up in a hospital to learn her fiancé had passed away, and that his ex-girlfriend of 16 years had poisoned their food. The forensic challenge of identifying the poison demonstrates Singh's sophistication. Standard toxicology screens failed completely. Only advanced liquid chromatography mass spectrometry revealed the unusual plant alkaloids. Scientists at the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew, one of the world's premier botanical research institutions, had to identify the specific source: Himalayan aconite, containing pseudaconitine. This was England's first aconite conviction since 1882, over 125 years. The case was so unusual that the forensic findings were published in The Lancet, one of the world's oldest and most prestigious medical journals. Singh is eligible for parole around 2033, when she'll be in her 60s. Chima passed away at 39, 2 weeks before his Valentine's Day wedding. Chung survived, but lost her fiancé to a poison so rare and sophisticated that it hadn't been used in an English case for over a century. While Singh traveled internationally to obtain her poison, the next perpetrator used modern technology as both weapon and downfall. The murder of Robert Cantor. Robert Cantor, 59 years old, was a popular software engineer at Verizon Wireless living in Teaneck, New Jersey, amicably separated from his wife of 34 years. In September 2009, he met Sophie Menuet, a French national married to Sui Kam Tony Tung, 47 years old, who owned a computer repair store in Manhattan. Cantor and Menuet bonded over shared interests in running and philosophy, and their relationship became intimate on Valentine's Day weekend 2010. Days later, Sophie discovered Tung had installed spyware on her computer, hacked her email, and forwarded Cantor's messages to himself. Tung showed Sophie a handgun he purchased, telling her that she and Cantor's lives were in danger. He stalked Cantor, visiting his Teaneck home at least 3 times on one occasion, demanding to see the basement bedroom where the affair was consummated. Sophie served Tung with divorce papers approximately 3 days before the incident. On March 6, 2011, Sophie introduced one of her daughters to Cantor during a museum visit the first time. That evening, the daughter mentioned meeting Rob, a friend of Mom's, to Tung. Despite telling police he stayed home washing dishes, security cameras showed Tung leaving his Manhattan apartment after 10 p.m. He traveled to Cantor's home and directed him at gunpoint to the basement bedroom, the same room he had previously insisted on seeing. He shot Cantor in the back of the head with a .380 caliber handgun, doused the body and room with grain alcohol, and set everything on fire. The case was entirely circumstantial. No weapon, DNA, or fingerprints. Evidence included the spyware, a matching caliber magazine request Tung emailed to a friend, his computer being in sleep mode contradicting his alibi, and a 2-gigabyte data wipe performed hours after the body was found. Cantor's friends publicly criticized the 14-month delay before Tung's arrest. In May 2012, Tung was convicted in December 2015 and sentenced to life plus 10 years. But the conviction was overturned on appeal in 2019 due to improper detective testimony. At his second trial in 2023, Tung was again convicted on all counts. On November 3, 2023, he was sentenced to life in New Jersey State Prison under the No Early Release Act. No parole eligibility. The judge told him, "You're not fooling anyone anymore." What makes Tung's case so disturbing is the technological stalking combined with physical stalking. The spyware on Sophie's computer, the hacked emails, forwarding Cantor's messages to himself, showing Sophie the handgun and claiming their lives were in danger, a threat disguised as a warning. The 3 visits to Cantor's home, with Tung demanding to see the basement bedroom where the affair was consummated, show fixation on that specific location. When he returned on March 6th to end Cantor, he directed him at gunpoint to that exact room. The act wasn't random, it was targeted revenge, carried out in the precise location that obsessed him. The daughter innocently mentioning meeting Rob, a friend of Mom's, apparently triggered the final decision. That evening, the same day Sophie introduced Cantor to her daughter Tung, left his Manhattan apartment after 10 p.m., despite claiming he stayed home washing dishes. The 2 GB data wipe performed hours after the body was found demonstrates consciousness of guilt. Tung knew investigators would examine his computer, so he attempted to destroy evidence. But the sleep mode status contradicting his washing dishes alibi, the email requesting a matching caliber magazine, and the spyware installation all survived the wipe. The grain alcohol poured over the body and room, then set on fire, was an attempt to destroy forensic evidence. But the fire didn't fully consume the scene, and investigators recovered enough to build their case. The 14-month delay before arrest frustrated Cantor's friends and family. Despite the spyware, the stalking, the handguns shown to Sophie, and Tung's documented obsession with the basement bedroom, authorities didn't arrest him until May 2012, over a year after the act. Robert Cantor was 59 years old, amicably separated from his wife, working as a software engineer, pursuing new relationships. He met Sophie Menuet and bonded over running and philosophy. Her husband stalked them both technologically and physically, demanded to see the bedroom where they'd been intimate, and then shot Cantor in the back of the head in that exact room before setting the body and room on fire. While Tung's obsession focused on a specific room in Cantor's home, the next perpetrator's obsession would involve an elaborate scheme to manufacture self-defense. The murder of Richard Slatkin. Richard Slatkin, 66 years old, was a private investigator from Benbrook, Texas, who made his living exposing cheaters and liars, a profession that proved bitterly ironic. He had married Catherine Taylor, an heiress whose grandfather co-founded Alcon, the eye care giant. Catherine was only 18 when she walked into Slatkin's office. Despite a 30-plus year difference, they married in 2009. While married to Slatkin, Catherine rekindled a relationship with her high school sweetheart, Jason Patton, fathering a child with him. Jason was the son of Johnny Patton Jr., 65 years old, a wealthy third-generation oilman and CEO of Patton Energy Partners. When Jason went to prison on substance-related charges, his father Johnny made a move on Catherine at Jason's going-away party. Johnny left his wife of 40 years and moved in with his son's ex-girlfriend, who was also the mother of his grandchild. Johnny grew intensely jealous of Catherine's continuing contact with Slatkin. On October 1st, 2013, Slatkin came to Catherine's apartment with 2 movers to collect personal belongings. Throughout the morning, Johnny made multiple 911 calls, claiming Slatkin was trying to end him. Prosecutors discovered that during the critical call when Patton claimed Slatkin was right in front of him, the sound of a revving car engine was audible, proving Patton was driving, not being threatened. He was hunting for Slatkin. Shortly before 3 p.m., Patton confronted Slatkin outside the apartment. The two movers witnessed as Slatkin raise his hands. He was unarmed. Patton shot him once in the chest at point-blank range while still on the phone with a 911 dispatcher. At trial in November 2015, prosecutors dismantled Patton's self-defense claim using the 911 audio, eyewitness testimony, and evidence that Slatkin's pocket knife was unopened and his firearm was in his vehicle. Catherine testified for the prosecution. The jury convicted Patton of first-degree ending and deliberated just 30 minutes before sentencing him to life in prison. His appeal was denied in 2016. He remains in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice system with parole eligibility around 2045, when he would be approximately 98 years old. What makes Patton's case so outrageous is the manufactured self-defense claim. He made multiple 911 calls throughout the morning claiming Slatkin was threatening him. But the audio analysis of the critical call when Patton claimed Slatkin was right in front of him revealed the sound of a revving car engine. Patton was driving around hunting for Slatkin, not being threatened by him. The two movers witnessing Slatkin raise his hands, clearly unarmed, contradicted any self-defense claim. Patton shot him once in the chest at point-blank range while still on the phone with dispatch. The firearm was fired while Patton was on an active 911 call, with the dispatcher hearing the shot. Slatkin's pocket knife was found unopened. His own firearm was in his vehicle, not on his person. He came to collect belongings with two movers as witnesses. He raised his hands when confronted, and Patton shot him in the chest anyway, then claimed self-defense. The relationship dynamics make this case particularly twisted. Richard Slatkin made his living as a private investigator, exposing cheaters and liars. He married an heiress, 30-plus years his junior. She rekindled her relationship with her high school sweetheart, then became involved with that sweetheart's father after the sweetheart went to prison. The father, jealous of the heiress's contact with her husband, manufactured a self-defense scenario through 911 calls, hunted down the 66-year-old private investigator, and shot him in the chest while he stood with raised hands in front of witnesses. The irony is devastating. A man who spent his career exposing deception was ended by someone attempting the most transparent deception imaginable. A self-defense claim contradicted by every piece of evidence, from 911 audio to eyewitness testimony to the victim's unopened knife and absent firearm. This was all from our side today. Thanks for watching. Click here to check out another video.